Welcome to the latest post-game edition of The Independent. I'm Pete Sampson atop Ross-Ade Stadium, joined by Matt Fortuna back in Chicago after a stop There's Blood Everywhere special. Notre Dame 66, Purdue 7. Frankly, not even that close. I'm not going to say Notre Dame got right everything that was wrong before, but they got a lot of it right that was wrong before. We'll spend a bunch on the quarterback. But I thought one of the biggest disappointments through the first 2 weeks of the season was the defensive line not owning the line of scrimmage, and they absolutely whipped Purdue today. And that's with Jordan Botelho going down too. So Boubacar Traore, Mills, Cross, that entire defensive line owned the point of attack in a way that we kind of thought that they could or would all year. And that's, to me, like, we'll get into the quarterback to me, but Matt, the defensive line taking a step forward today, a huge step forward. That's what Notre Dame really, really needs.
If Marcus Freeman wants to call up Ryan Walters and tell him whatever it is that Thomas Hammock called him up and told him last week, then Purdue's going to go undefeated and smoke Oregon State next week. MVP Thomas Hammock. No.
Yeah.
Where the hell did that come from, or where the hell was that last week, right? I mean, Purdue is, for all their youth, for all the preseason prognostications, I think you wrote it, a win in this game would be nothing more than a win over the 18th place team in the Big Ten. You don't see that in Power 4 football. You don't see that on the road. It's happened before. We'd have to dig into our history books to provide relevant examples. I could think of Michigan Rutgers early in the Harbaugh tenure, I think was 78-0. Like, that just doesn't happen. A name your score affair, particularly after last week. I mean, the line on this game dropped to 7. Vegas is there's a reason Vegas.
There's a new casino going up.
Yeah. It was built on fools, many of whom were betting Purdue so much when that opened at -12 that it got all the way down to -7. And a couple fools on this podcast, I think I picked them to win by 7. You picked them to win by 8. And we weren't even sure who the starting quarterback would be. Well, Riley Leonard answered that in the affirmative, ran the ball well. Ran it with authority, had a nice stiff arm on one of those touchdowns. And yeah, I didn't think with, 13 minutes and change left to the third quarter, it'd be Steve Angeli time. Like, if you told me that pregame, I'd think, this is not going well. And it was going so well that CJ Carr ends up being the first Notre Dame quarterback to go in victory formation 3 weeks into the season. Not what I had on my bingo card, but what a performance in every phase.
Yeah, it really was. Leonard finished 11-16, 112 yards. Angeli 6-9, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Minchey 101, 4 yards. Also rushed for a touchdown. And then CJ Carr gets the first snaps of his college career too. So in the end, Notre Dame finished with 578 yards total offense, allowed just 162. Purdue finished with 25 carries for 38 yards. They had one double-digit run, I think, in the entire game. Notre Dame was also really good on third down, finished 7 of 12, Purdue 1 of 12. So it was a chance to sort of get right in a bunch of different ways. And yet, I thought after the game, Marcus Freeman, very measured. I don't think if you just read body language, you would know if Notre Dame won the game or not, based on his sort of demeanor post game. So read into that what you will. I'm not really sure if you should read anything into it, but I thought it was interesting how head down he was about this whole thing. Not like head dropped low. I mean, just like, Get back to work. We just beat the 18th team in the Big Ten. I think that there's certainly a lot of perspective in the Notre Dame locker room about what they did today and what it means. And I'm not saying it should be dismissed by any stretch of the imagination after last week. But I think that they know they've got a lot to go from here.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I guess I'd read a positive. Like, they're not beating their chests over a win like this because no matter how bad they played, I think we all expect them to still win this game in some way, shape, or form. I feel bad for CBS, right? It's the one time they get Notre Dame, and early third quarter already, Brad and Danielson are basically going, it's like baseball, right? Like, you got to do 162 games. You're going to have a lot of time to tell stories. Well, there's a lot of storytelling going on in the second half. There was enough storytelling time, and Steve Angeli got into the game with enough time left where they kept mistakenly referring to him as a Sun Bowl MVP before eventually being passed a note and correcting themselves because we all remember his performance in that game. Kenny Minchey getting in the end zone, good for him. Like I just to see that guy on the field for Notre Dame and to get that moment, and you could tell the excitement. The cameras were really there. Like on the CBS broadcast, you could really feel, what it meant for everyone to see him get in. And obviously, CJ Carr, the chosen one, getting in at the end there. Exciting stuff for Notre Dame. Again, I just 66-7. Like we've seen this like at home. Like we saw this with Pitt last year, right? To a lesser extent. It showed you what this team could be. I don't think it like eases the sting of last week, but it does reset, I think, the team and the fan base and everyone mentally of like, oh yeah, like keep the main thing the main thing. If you take care of business, maybe you go into USC with one loss and maybe all your goals are still in front of you. Again, this team has not demonstrated the consistent maturity to like earn that kind of like, all right, let's skip ahead 8 weeks kind of talk. But this week, at the very least, they did everything they humanly could to erase last week.
Yeah, and they're aware of it. Marcus Freeman after the game, he was asked multiple questions like out of the gate, like what was different? What's different? And he's like, look, if I knew
right,
like what everything was supposed to look like during the week that would predict a performance like this versus a performance like that, we would have won last week. Like I think he was almost peeved at the line of questioning, just because he doesn't know. Like I don't think he's a body language reader at quite that level. But I mean, the difference he did say was like in practices this week, they like basically stopped and got their stuff corrected before moving on. Whereas maybe during Northern Illinois week, there was less of that. I don't know how much of that is true or just sort of reverse engineering the result to the week. But because I mean, it's not like Notre Dame played this flawless, perfect game. They just beat the crap out of Purdue. And that's good, obviously. So yeah, I don't really know. I think for there's a big section of the Notre Dame fan base that this makes Northern Illinois actually more aggravating than it already was. I can understand that point of view. I think there's probably a section of the fan base that this makes the rest of the season more intriguing than it was last week. I get that too. I'm not sure one camp is right and one camp is wrong on that. It's just, this is, you don't go from like whiplash one way or to the other without it being a team that you would describe as predictable. And like, that ultimately that's the goal for Marcus Freeman. You want to make Notre Dame predictable. You want to know what they're going to do before they do it. And he's just not quite there yet.
No, I mean, I completely agree with you. I mean, it's been that kind of season to date. So like they've given us a lot of material to work with in that regard, from beating A&M, thinking, they're going undefeated, to losing to NIU, to, I don't think me and you were like seriously calling for his job, but a lot of questions we got last week were about that. You were on radio stations where you got asked about that, to now where it's like, wait, they just won by how many on the road? It's hard to make sense of all of that. It's hard to like take a grand takeaway from Notre Dame's first 3 weeks of the season. I would say we won't learn much next week against Miami, Ohio, but like they just lost to a MAC team, and Miami's probably better than Northern Illinois, at least on paper. So we'll take this one game at a time, as the old coaching cliche goes. It was encouraging to see them run the ball as well as they did. It was encouraging to see the explosive plays. I mean, 5 explosive touchdown plays, 4 of them coming on offense, 2 takeaways, which was very, very important. I do think like once we get removed from the shock and awe of today, I think we go back to the questions we had coming into this game, which was the offensive line, because they had a center and a right guard go down, and it was already a young, inexperienced, not very good line to begin with. And I don't know what the updates are on Strouth or Craig. Didn't look promising in game to the untrained eye. But that's going to be something like, not to take away from what they just did on the football field, but like when you're projecting out the season and next week and what happens next, that may end up being the most relevant part of today.
Yeah. I mean, they could ultimately be down three offensive line starters from the beginning of camp if you throw Charles Jagasa into that mix too. I'm with you. Like, it was good. I think that I have been, not I'm the only one, but like I've felt like Jeremiah Love was better than what his box scores would have indicated over the last year. Because like every time I see him touch the ball, I think he's capable of doing exactly what he did today. Just maybe he hasn't done it. And there was an NFL scout sitting next to me, and when he sat down, I was like, who are you here to see? And I'm thinking like, Ben Morrison or maybe like Mills and Cross, Riley Leonard, obviously, because he's a quarterback. And he's like, number 4. Like, he's the best player on the field, both teams. So I think the word is out on Jeremiah Love from a skill set point of view. But it was good to see it actually happen in a game where he finishes with 10 carries for 109 yards. He had 2 catches for 18 yards. And if they really wanted to lean in Jeremiah Love, he could have run for 200 yards today. But I just, all off season, I felt like Jeremiah Love was going to be the breakout player on this roster. And today you got to see some of those reasons why, like not just a practice clip, but like a game where he was outstanding.
Without looking at the box score, do you know who Notre Dame's leading receiver was in terms of catches?
Oh God. I don't, was it Jaden Thomas?
No. And well, the first 2 answers are tight ends, but I mean, or the first answer is tight end, excuse me. Both Eli Raridon and Mitchell Evans both had 3 catches. Raridon for 30, Evans for 27, Harrison 2 for 47. Like they're still.
And the only touchdowns, the only receiving touchdowns are Cooper Flanagan and Kevin Bauman.
Yeah, still not. Well, like the running joke once Angeli threw 2 touchdown passes, we're like, oh, he's thrown more touchdown passes than Leonard. And like I have buddies texting me that. And now I'm like looking at the side of our comments that I haven't posted yet. And all of them are like talking about a quarterback controversy. And I'm like, okay, fan base has not put last week away just yet.
Well, hell, I mean, the first receiving touchdown technically was probably a defensive end. If you want to get technical about it, like Boubacar Traore had the first touchdown catch of the year. So
what? Not that I tell you my business. What the hell is Hudson Carr and that first team offense still doing out at the end when it's 60 whatever to 7? When Notre Dame's down to their 4th stringers, not their backups, their 4th stringers.
Like Ryan Walters, long for this job? Question mark? I don't know. I guess it's early, but yeah, the level of ineptitude was like sub Danny Hope. I've never seen Purdue look this pathetic. I've covered a handful of Purdue games. This was the biggest blowout in the history of the series. I think this was the 88th meeting. So, but they're bad. They're really bad. They looked like a team that didn't think Riley Leonard was a run threat. Very confusing about how you could be that bad in a sold out home game on national television, where you're just like, see you next year if you're Purdue. It was just, I was shocked by how bad they were.
I'm going to throw some questions in here. Scott Gurley, what's more concerning? Riley Leonard still hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in 3 games, or the injuries on the O-line. Let me preface this by saying, like, I do play fantasy football, but I'm not a fantasy football player, if that makes sense. Like, I hate the, like, how that's basically, I get the popularity of it, yada, yada, yada. I hate how, like, every conversation about NFL Sundays about your fantasy team, like, a lot of it does not exactly translate to strong play. Like, would it be better if he threw touchdown passes? Sure. I don't know how you can watch the game today and be like, oh, well, Steve Angeli did this, Riley Leonard didn't. Like, that's not a concern. It's no more or less a concern. Oh, it's less of a concern because he played good football today, but it's just not a concern to me, like the lack of touchdown passes. Now, long term, the lack of involvement with these, ballyhooed transfer receivers and the numbers they're putting up, yeah, I could get behind that as a concern, especially as the season goes on. But to me, no question, the injuries on the O-line is the more imminent concern right now.
Yeah, they're both a concern, but one I think is like of a grave concern.
Yes.
And I think they actually, to be able to plug in Spindler and Coogan is quite a luxury. Somehow you lose 2 starters, and yet your offensive line gets more experience by doing so.
The 2 guys who fought for the left guard position on day 1 of camp are now your starting center and right guard.
Yeah, it's a weird state of affairs. But yeah, I think the offensive line depth is in grave position right now. I mean, they really cannot afford one more thing. And it's September 14th as we're recording this. There's a lot of things to come. So that's a big problem. The Riley Leonard thing, I guess that's still a concern though. Like, it's not a concern next week, but it's a concern against Louisville.
Let me put it this way. Like, everything you just said about Purdue, which I mostly agree with, if Riley Leonard chucked it up and threw a couple touchdown passes today, would it be like, all right, cross that off the bucket list? It is Purdue. Like, Angeli did the same thing.
It's Purdue. Like, everything should be prefaced by, like, it's Purdue. They're terrible. But I just think, like, so how about this? The fact that he didn't do it against Purdue. Like, shouldn't that be a concern?
No,
I don't know.
I didn't see any plays there where I'm like, boy, he's going to want that one back.
Yeah, I don't know. Watching the game.
You saw how open the guys were when Angeli.
There were guys open. Yeah, but I mean, there were guys open when Leonard was back there too. Watching the game from the press box, it's not like guys are running all open all over the field, but there are guys open that Leonard doesn't really see. His default setting is like, I'm going to run it, and he's really good at that. And that's like not the worst thing in the world to have that default setting. But I think against Louisville, when the offensive line is tested by like a solid defensive line, Aston Gelotti is really good, their defensive end. You're going to have to be able to throw the ball. But, I feel like the fix today was like the run game had been okay the first 2 weeks, like not great. And they were running into loaded boxes because, like, why would you play past, nickel and dime against Notre Dame at this point? So that's something that I think they can take away from it. But I still think, like, Riley Leonard, 0 touchdown passes through 3 games, or technically 2.5 games. Like, that shouldn't be. I don't think that's something you should just be brushing aside either.
No, but he had 3 all of last year. Like, we knew this was who he was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's reality. And how many touchdown passes did Notre Dame's wide receivers catch last year? I don't have the answer off the top of my head, but it's less than 10.
After the first 4 games, not many.
And that, to me, that's more of a concern, because we talked all off season about Notre Dame recruiting well enough at the receiver position despite their recent history on the field there. And you can't just bring in 3 grad transfers every year the way they did this year. This was a year where it's like, okay, they're going to show they actually know what they're doing at that position. And I'm not saying they don't, but we haven't seen it yet through 3 games. Like, the passing game is still leaving a lot to be desired, and it needs to get there, at least take a big first step in 2 weeks against Louisville. Spitball idea. All the problems are fixed. No longer anything to worry about. This team will never lose again. Followed by same guy. It's the same guy. Spitball idea again. If you have 2 QBs, you have 0 QBs. All caps. Patrick Cross chimes in with dual QB system. Leonard and Angeli.
Leonard for the run plays, Angeli for the pass plays. Hear me out. What do you think? It's my big idea.
Worked so well for Michigan through 3 games that they finally benched their guy, I think, today against Fresno State. Arkansas State. ND Dan, can we keep this angry focused play for the rest of the season, or will there be more letdowns? That's why, like, mentally speaking, and again, I know you can't project out with these guys, but it was encouraging to see them play pissed off today. They're football players. They're prideful. You'd have to think about the conversation we were having on Thursday or Wednesday or whenever we did this last week. It's like, will Leonard play? Is he the right guy? It's
pretty dark last week.
I don't know if you saw the post-game interview with Leonard with Jenny Dell, but she said, like, when's the last time you felt this good on a football field? Or when's the last time and he just goes, not last week. Was his answer. So you could tell that was it was a lot, and it was good to see them kind of unleash that fury, so to speak. this weekend. Because again, like I thought they'd win this game. I frankly wasn't sure who would start at quarterback. I thought they'd win it regardless. I did not think it would be 66-7. So, in as much as you can prove in a win, you could prove something in a win over Purdue. I think they proved whatever it was they needed to prove this week, while there's still a lot of questions about this team moving forward.
I don't want to downplay today at all. And I know that I've said it's Purdue, but they 66-7 against a Power 4 team.
Well, 42-0 at halftime. That part is just.
That's straight. That's video game stuff. So I give them a ton of credit for coming out and just absolutely whipping them. Because that's Purdue has. I was told Purdue had some good players. But Notre Dame did not let any of them show themselves to be quality football players at all. So more power for Notre Dame. As far as the angry focus play for the rest of the season, probably not. Because human nature won't really allow it. And I think that's one of the things about Marcus Freeman is we talked about handling success, and that's why I'm so happy that we came out in the second half and won 24-7.
Yeah.
To me, handling success is winning the next 4 games and going to Georgia Tech. It's winning the next 7 games or 6 games and then hosting Virginia on Senior Day. That's the I don't think that a lot of people are going to tell Notre Dame football players, you guys are great. Best team ever. The way that they were after A&M. It's going to take 4, 5, 6, 7 wins to get there. So I want to see how they handle success in late October, early November, assuming they keep playing angry focus the rest of the season. Because that eventually human nature will get you. And I think that's sort of one of Marcus Freeman's biggest tasks here in this year 3 is how do you do a better job of fighting human nature? Obviously they did a poor job in week 2. They did a great job in week 3, but you got to do a good to great job every week. And that's just really difficult to do.
Agree. Daniel Masoud chiming in. Matt saying you expect them to win any game is a all caps dangerous game to play. Yes, that's fair. 3 years of evidence have taught us nothing if not that. You can't take anything for granted with this team. Sid Irish chiming in, still see us at 9-3. Probably more likely than not, but again, it's really hard to make any definitive predictions off what we've seen so far. Brian Ellickson chiming in, consider me, he added, part of the fan base who is more annoyed. I get it. I get it, because
it would be too.
You saw what they're capable of. If Purdue played Northern Illinois tomorrow, now if Purdue plays the way they did today, they won't win, but Purdue would probably be favored. And Notre Dame just beat them by 59 points in their house and lost at home to NIU. It's never as we use the transitive property a lot in college football because that's all we have with so few games. It's never quite that simple. But yeah, I get it. I'd be, not to compare these guys like the Urban Meyer Ohio State teams. I remember those teams. Pretty much every one of them was good enough to at least compete for a national championship, and he only won one.
Losing at Purdue.
Yeah, right. He only won one, and I think he never got back to the actual championship game there because they had at least one game a year where it's just what happened? How does this group of first-round draft picks lose to these guys? Yeah. And Notre Dame found themselves in that situation last week. ND Dan chiming in, even after today, this team is closer to 8-4 than 11-1. Oh, the positivity is flowing in here. No, I appreciate the realism. Actually, it's if you're a player in that locker room, if you're a coach in that locker room, you celebrate every victory. Maybe some more than others, but you celebrate all of them because they're tough. And this one cost you a lot in terms of the health department. Yeah. But yeah, if you're a fan, I'm right there with you. I get the frustration. Patrick McCarthy, Fortuna put the hat on. Pete, not to be outdone. Patrick McCarthy chimes in, Pete, the way you wear your AirPods is a criminal act. Football-wise, Paul Kinlan, how on earth did 2 ND defenders crash into each other on that long Purdue pass? By the way, that might have been I was curious, was the defense really angry after the game?
You
This guy's
know,
out.
no, I don't think so.
I know
the
it's
brief
manufactured
glimpses,
anger, but
right? I mean, the brief glimpses that I got in the tunnel, no, not. It seemed like they were pretty content with what just happened. And the only defensive player that came in for post-game interviews was Boubacar Traore, who I thought, took a big step forward in his career today. So, I think they felt pretty good about it. And it goes back to what I said at the very beginning of the show. The defensive line owning the line of scrimmage today was a huge development. And that is one to me, like there's a question about mentality and what you can keep up the rest of the season. That to me is very replicable the rest of the season, and needs to be, because like Notre Dame, well, shoot, I mean, they still have not given up 20 points to anybody, right? Like they shouldn't give up 20 points to anybody until USC, maybe. Louisville, yeah, I guess.
If
I don't know.
Louisville wins, they'll score more than 20. And
yeah, I mean, Jeff Brom is a hell of a play caller, but I just like, if the defensive line plays like it did today, nobody's going to score 20 on this team. Nobody.
During the fourth quarter kind of filibuster, the CBS broadcast was looking at the schedule and like, wow, wait, this is not that difficult schedule. Like, to the point where Gary was like, if they went out, will they get a bye? I'm like, or not bye, a home game.
Gary.
And I'm like, I don't know if we're ready to go back there after last week, but I mean, they have one road game the rest of the season, and it's the last game of the year. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, one true road game. That's right. Yeah.
Navy's at Jersey, Georgia Tech's at Mercedes-Benz, which will probably be a 50-50 crowd, if not more Irish. It's pretty remarkable the way they kind of built this thing this year. All the more reason. And like, there's also like, oh, if you're Notre Dame, you want NIU to win the MAC, or you want them to be good. It's like, I don't think you want, like, they beat you, so I get it, but I don't know if it's like the place you want to be.
Less NIU talk, the better. And to the point that after the game, Marcus Freeman was asked, like, what did Thomas Hammock tell you in that conversation?
Oh, he did get asked that.
Yeah, and did any of it help you today?
I texted you that, like, tongue in cheek, like.
No, he got asked it. He wasn't really in a sharing mood. He's like, that's a private conversation between two head coaches. That happens a lot. Have a nice day, basically. It was, I think that NIU is going to be a weird touch point for this season, because it's kind of a, hey, don't let that happen again, but also let's not talk about that. I don't know, like, how Notre Dame will balance those two things, like what the statute of limitations on bringing up NIU for motivation will be. I guess it's probably as much as you want to use it.
Would use it. I mean, I'm not saying like, hey, great question, Pierre, whoever asked it, but like, I'd use it. Like, you hear all the time, like, people putting up pictures on the lockers of like they need it. Like, I'm sorry, like, this happened 3 years in a row, or three games, I should say, at home over 3 years. They need it. Like, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't want to
right on that.
I don't want to hear about NIU. Like, sure, like, I'm not going to share what they told me, but like, they've earned that burn mark, and they're going to have to wear that scar until they prove otherwise. So, I didn't know he actually got asked that, which is kind of funny. There are a couple questions in here. Kevin Landers, Urlacher looks like a hitter, takes out opponents and teammates. He absolutely looked like a hitter on that, what looked like a force fumble in real time. Said Irish adding, if Kennedy were a few inches taller and faster, high 4-star. I could.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like, when I went to Arizona to see him in person, I was like, okay. Like, not like the eye test. He does not ace the eye test when you see him. And this was, to be fair, spring of his junior year of high school. So stuff changes, but was not somebody that, like, for example, Bryce Young, when you watch him, you're like, oh yeah, your dad's in the NFL Hall of Fame. I'm sorry, Purdue kick return team, for what happened to you. Kennedy Urlacher doesn't really strike that same kind of figure, but man, yeah, he lit up some people today. It was pretty impressive. And like, again, it's Purdue, but if you're going to go out there and hit on the road when you get your opportunity, I think it's a positive thing for the long haul.
Ron Kotecki, more NIU talk. Shame them forever. Patrick Cross, we need to keep talking NIU. Defines the season if the team forgets and they're likely to drop a game again. I think you're right. Keep talking about them. There was I did have some fun. One of my best friends is from Purdue, and we were texting during a game, and he stopped checking his phone after a while. But when they got the touchdown to make it 49-7, I sent the Chris Paul drills, the YouTube meme. Chris Paul's crucial 3-pointer cuts the Suns deficit to 42. Did not reply to that one either. And I tried a few, like, come on, you can't leave the tight end open like that in the fourth quarter, which also didn't get a response. Again,
I'm going to check him on after this podcast.
Make
sure he's okay.
There were the surrender Cobra shots in the fourth quarter of those who stayed were
that was also a thing. The Purdue fan base cleared out in a hurry. The student section, not a lot left by early in the third quarter. Like they had other places to do. So yeah, there's not a lot of they were filing out the Joe Tiller tunnel in record speed. You've dropped how many different Purdue head coach names in this episode so far? You had Danny. Yeah, we didn't even get to Daryl Hazel, who Marcus Freeman.
Marcus Freeman's old boss. Yeah,
he was asked about that also post game, which I was like, I wouldn't have thought to ask that. And it was basically, was there anything during your time at Purdue that helped you prepare for what you're going through now at Notre Dame? And he's like, how do I come up with a nice answer? I mean, basically,
post game. You said
post game.
Thursday he got asked it, but it was like a pretty normal.
In the press conference.
Okay.
He's going through like Riley Leonard, Northern Illinois, yada yada. Also, what about your time here in West Lafayette? And he's like, nothing. I was the linebackers coach.
I think he was on that staff last time Notre Dame played there, right?
That was in 2013. Yeah, I think you're right. That would be. Game. I think Bennett Jackson had a pick six. That was like a legit game.
No, it was.
This was not.
It was not. Daniel Massoud got it for Botello. The injury looked bad, and he looked great so far this year, but I'm excited for Young to have more snaps. I agree. I mean, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what the exact injury is, but
that was
looks like one of the sadder. Again, not that some are better or worse than others, but like when you look at a guy who looked like he was having the proverbial like click on in his final year and have it all come together for him, to see him go down like that and in that kind of pain was just not a fun sight.
It was, and it's like the players know. So like when all the players come over, like that breaks your heart a little bit. We've talked about in this podcast, like Botello, I sort of called it like the Jonas Gray senior season. You've been around for a while, never done anything. Like, is it going to happen? Maybe it's not going to happen. And then it does. And I think it was happening for Botello. And like, that was another devastating, like depressing injury when it happened. Jonas Gray, like I think tore up his knee against Boston College in 2011, last home game. So yeah, that sucked to see because Botello was, for the first time really like a reliable down in, down out player who like gave Notre Dame really positive reps every time he was on the field. So that was terrible to see. That was terrible to see.
On a lighter note, Patrick Cross suggests, hear me out, 3 QB system, 2 running backs, 3 tight ends, 2 wide receivers, and a center to snap the ball. My question for you, Patrick, who's the odd man out at quarterback? They got 4. They're playing 3. I don't know if I heard the term abundance of riches, but it certainly seemed like the CBS broadcast was getting to that point, which again is not where I thought we'd be talking about Notre Dame's quarterback room 48 hours ago. But it's a good sign we're able to get 4 in. 3 in. Who's the primary passer? Angeli.
I think Angeli for now, and then Carr backs up Angeli, and Minchey backs up Leonard in this platoon system. That like I don't know, it feels like Notre Dame's going to be running the swinging gate or some version of it.
Back to back. And I love this is a beauty in the eye of the beholder. Corey Flynn, I love the broadcaster. It's great having ND on CBS. Ron Kotecki, Nessler, and Dave Nessler were miserable, and that was nice. Hey, we get that on this show, right?
Oh man,
you hate them. No, you're a homer. You're too soft on them. Par for the course.
Yeah, you don't get a lot
it's
of
still
that.
weird to me. I know we're like a year and a half into this now. To hear the CBS theme music and not have like the SEC come on is different. It's just different. Having Aaron Taylor in the studio, both halftime and post game, was a nice touch for this game as well.
Ooh, I look forward to go back to listen to that.
Joking about him having eligibility left since they were down so many linemen at the end, which, as much as we laugh, he could probably go in there and give them a few healthy snaps.
Yeah,
they would really appreciate it. There are a couple of questions here related to Tyler Buckner. I'm not going to lie, that thought did cross my mind at the end. If he was going to get in at quarterback, he's what 20? What number is he now?
26.
That's what I thought. Okay, would have been cool to see a number 26 playing quarterback, but
yeah,
a couple in here about James Rendell as well.
That's something's off there.
Fair questions. I don't know how deep we want to dive into punting.
Just like I mean, it's worth. Marty Biaggi was asked about it during the week, and he's like, "Yeah, he's got to be a lot better." I described it. It looks like the guy that we saw in practice in August, who would just like cut loose and let it fly, looks very tense to me out there. I sort of equated it to like you drive it in the middle of the fairway, hit your 7-iron, and you just like clench the club on your downswing and it slows down, like you just tense up and then you shank it into the woods. So yeah, that's been a weird part of this season, that like there's been much more important and much weirder parts to the season, but that is a funky sidebar that I don't know. I'm not sure what impact that's going to have on the rest of the year, but James Rendell's punting has not been the strength that I think I thought that it would be.
Sound like Dwight Goodman from Dodgeball there. Notre Dame PR tweeted, QB Riley Leonard is the first FBS player with 100 or more pass yards, 100 more rush yards, and 3 or more rushing touchdowns in the first half since Lamar Jackson at Syracuse on September 9th, 2016. That was the famous Lamar Leap game. And let me tell you, watching Leonard out there today, I thought the exact same thing.
Yeah, much more of a rumbling, stumbling, bumbling vibe to Riley Leonard's style compared to Lamar Jackson. So yeah, I'm not sure I see a whole lot of comparison. That team, of course, went 9-3 in the regular season. So hopefully there's
won the Heisman.
Not a lot of other comparisons.
Won the Heisman, 2-time NFL MVP. He won the Heisman off that leap. He didn't really do as much late in the year, but he built such a strong lead early on that it did not matter.
He was their leading rusher in 10 games. That's insane.
Lamar?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. What did he rush for that year? Almost 2,000? 1,500?
Yeah, a lot of yards.
That makes sense. Leonard's not Notre Dame's leading rusher in any game, I don't think, which is a good thing.
And
with those
has not thrown a touchdown pass. So
I heard about that.
We got a ways to go on this one.
Maybe that will come next week. Maybe we can talk about that next week as well. That's all I have. Well, Daniel's piggybacking off us here. Riley Leonard Heisman season incoming. Look at that. This pod 38 minutes ago started with that controversy. And ending with Riley Leonard, Lamar Jackson, Heisman.
I'll give you Doak Walker for Riley Leonard. I mean, that's sort of, and I guess that is one other thing worth mentioning. Post game, I asked Riley Leonard, like, could you give me some insight in this week with Denbrock? Because I'd gotten the sense that like maybe they're not seeing football the same way. And he's like, no, we spent a lot of time, and Leonard was pretty upfront. Like, I like this. I don't like this. If you call this pass play, I'm going to run it. Like, not run the play, like actually take off and run. So I think that there's some growth there that's happening that is sustainable, that is independent of it's Purdue. So that might be something that Notre Dame can take from this week and repurpose it every other week about the Denbrock-Leonard relationship.
Absolutely. I think we'll end on that note, unless you have anything else to add, but
I do not.
You've got a fun project coming up this week. I don't want to spoil it, but if you want to tease it.
Yeah. I'm headed to Oxford, Ohio from here. I'm going to spend a few days with the Miami fighting Chuck Martin. So should be a cool story coming down the road on the Athletic. Or maybe we can get Chuck to hop on the podcast midweek, depending how he's feeling. I know they lost to Cincinnati today. That's their big rivalry game, but yeah, should be a kind of cool opportunity to do something a little different on a Notre Dame opponent than every other week.
You haven't even gotten there yet. I'm already excited to read it just because it involves Chuck Martin, and
should be some great. If people are not laughing out like 10 to 15 times during the story, I feel like I've failed as a journalist.
Alabama stole our kicker, but yeah,
yes.
No, he's as good on the record as he is off the record, which you can't say for too many guys. We miss him. We miss talking to him. Although I don't miss transcribing him when he was at Notre Dame. But that should be a very fun trip for you, a fun story to report, and a fun week as Notre Dame gets ready to host Miami of Ohio next Saturday. For now, 66-7. That's right, I think 66-7 winners on the road at Purdue. Notre Dame improves to 2-1. That's all for me and Pete. Please, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. YouTube as well has been a big hit for us. Please tune in on YouTube. This is live, and we've been doing live shows midweek every week so far. We were not planning on doing post-game live shows, but this season so far has commanded that kind of immediate reaction and attention.
I received text messages. When are you going live for the show? So I think we're going to have to
give the people what they want. Two bald men talking about a very sporadic football team.
Doesn't get any better than that. So until our midweek show on Wednesday, he's Matt, I'm Pete. Thanks for being with us on the latest episode of The Independent.